Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be men and talk about masculinity and men's issues. I'm your host, Brian Krall, and today I want to talk to you about how women make men weak and stupid. Something I've long noticed, but has now been proven in a study. Have you ever noticed how men often act like apish idiots, to try to get the attention of a woman? If you consider yourself a smart man, it's easy to look at them and think to yourself, what buffoons! I would never behave like that. And maybe you wouldn't behave exactly like them, but unfortunately, men in general cannot help the fact that women make us men stupid. A new study from the Netherlands was just published, which I will link below so you can take a look at it yourself. And it shows how an interaction with a woman, or even an anticipated interaction with a woman, causes a decrease in the cognitive performance of men. So unfortunately, we men simply cannot help it. Yes, even the smart ones. Women just simply decrease our mental performance. In effect, they make us dumber. So much that just being around them is enough to decrease our brain power. Or not even being around them, but thinking that you might be around one. And the more attractive a woman is, and the more mating potential you see in her, the stupider she will make you. That is quite unfortunate for us men, isn't it? Now, the study does not show that women intend to have this effect, but it makes you wonder how they feel about it. And I can only devise that based upon the common couple we see depicted in just about every sitcom, which shows a smart woman and a stupid man, as well as all of the relationship dynamics that I have observed in couples as a social scientist, that women actually do in some way want and enjoy the effect of making smart men stupid so that he will be more subordinate to her. But now, so far, I've only spoken about the female effect on male cognition, which is also paired with the effect that the women we mate with long term also make us weak, and especially the strong men out there. Because it is a woman's biological imperative to find the strongest male specimen to mate with in order to reproduce and pass on her genes with such a man in order to create offspring that will be the fittest for survival. However, it is her psychological imperative to try to get such a man to be pair bonded with her and as dependent upon her emotionally as possible. She does this through emotional seduction and creating romantic feelings, as well as trying to get him to open up to her emotionally and reveal his vulnerabilities and emotional weaknesses and pain. She does this not in order to become like his therapist and be a supportive partner who helps him to heal his emotional wounds, for no woman is capable of doing that, not without getting the proper training, and even then, psychotherapy is hardly effective. But rather, the woman does this in order to disempower her man and give herself power over him. Once she has opened him up emotionally and gotten him to rely upon her for emotional support, it is not as if he can just close himself back up and revert back to his strong dominant role. No, he cannot, because the way in which the woman was able to make this power play and get him to be vulnerable with her was through seduction, manipulation, addiction, and disempowering him. She has created an emotionally codependent partner, so he will only become more submissive and subordinate to her, even if she doesn't help him to heal his emotional wounds, but only pretends to emotionally support him and like she's going to treat his wounds. But then when it comes down to it, she just pours salt on them. But at that point, she has him under her control. Okay, he's already been given the powerful drug cocktail that she's created in his brain by creating the emotions, the romantic feelings. So at that point, he simply doesn't have the strength to rebel against her and take back control. Women do this because while it is the man's strength that attracted them to him in the first place, they know that this will also attract other females to him, and that in order to ensure long-term pair bonding, they need to make him less attractive. attractive to the others so that there will be no competition. So they weaken him, and this happens on two different fronts, mentally and physically. So they weaken his mind and character through their emotional manipulation, and they also often may encourage him to let himself go physically and start insisting that instead of going to the gym, that he spend time with her instead. And she may also indulge his appetite, having been taught by her mother that the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach, which is a nicer way of saying that if you get a man dependent upon you feeding him, he will stick around just like any other kind of pet. So the woman makes the man weaker in character as well as in physical strength and appearance so that he will become like her pet and be unable to go mate with any other bitches like the street dog that he once was. In doing this, she successfully domesticates him and ensures that he will be there, playing a domestic role for her and any offspring that they may have. It is her way of putting him on a short leash, after which she teaches him to obey her like a good dog does by providing negative reinforcement when he disagrees with her or doesn't do as she wishes, and positive reinforcement when he does, such as sexual attention, which in a marriage becomes more of a manipulation tool that is given as a reward for compliance than it is something that is about intimacy. I spoke about how women turn men into dogs in my video on dogs versus wolves, linked below, where I said that women like to take a strong, independent, alpha male lone wolf and turn him into their subordinate little lap dog. So make sure that you check that video out below. But in essence, in a relationship with a woman, the man goes from being an independent adult male to more of a puppet or a servant or slave, and she becomes his puppet master or slave master. I'm sure you've seen this with most married couples out there where the man has no independence, has to ask his wife for permission to do literally anything he wants to do, and won't disagree with or go against her. The official position in the institution of marriage is that the woman is always right and the man is always wrong. And happy wife, happy life, because the relationship is about female validation and happiness, not the other way around. The man is basically whipped by his wife's pussy. Just as a slave is whipped by an actual whip in order to ensure their obedience, the modern husband is whipped more in a mental and sexual sense rather than physically with an actual whip. Because when he attempts to rebel against his wife, she will manipulate him with her sexuality and her psychological power over him. And if he still doesn't comply, she will subject him to emotional abuse and punishments that he cannot handle due to his weakened and vulnerable state that she put him in order to make him this controllable. So, of course, her coercion always works. So wives' art of war type methodology, as well as the legal nature of marriage, give them complete control over their husbands. However, since the female mind and behavior is full of paradoxes, because their entire paradigm is a paradoxical one, this little scheme is no exception. For you see, in making the man weak and stupid for his submission to and reliance upon her, she has negated the primary factors that attracted her to him. And so once this has taken place and she has gotten herself pregnant, thus fulfilling the goal of her biological imperative and the main reason for being with him in the first place, she then loses attraction to him, or begins to lose attraction to him, which sometimes is a gradual process. And the sexual relationship will begin to stall, okay, or it will become staggered and will in time begin to stall and eventually stop completely. The women simply lose sexual as well as romantic interest in her man, who has been emasculated by her at that point, and it was his masculinity that she was attracted to. And so then the relationship becomes no more than a functional domestic partnership at that point. She keeps the man around only to fulfill his domestic role and duties to her and her children, but since her romantic feelings for him have been neutralized, so too does any love and attachment she has to him. He has to make appointments with her for sex, or try to practice some sort of masterful seduction just to get her aroused, and just having intercourse becomes a chore and is something that happens very rarely. And to her, it's just a reminder of how much she is no longer attracted to him sexually or even emotionally. Eventually, her emasculation of him and his role as her subservient domestic house pet or servant becomes so repulsive to her that she cannot help but comparing him to other eligible bachelors out there who still have their strong masculinity that makes them so attractive as potential mates. And once she has taken the bulk of the resources that she needs from her husband to create her nest egg for her and her offspring, and she realizes that she has no real need for him anymore, or want for him either for that matter, she will start to contemplate ending the relationship. And it will only be a matter of time until she does and divorces herself from him in order to be with a new suitor who's going to be a younger, stronger, more masculine alpha male who she can then repeat this process with. This is part of female nature and their mating behaviors. It is innately wired into them for the purpose of being able to reproduce and have offspring who will be able to survive by having a good male provider. But to also be able to do this with more than one man for genetic diversity. This is why long-term relationships almost never last more than a certain period of time, like an average of 2 to 7 years, unless your culture forbids divorce, which is the whole reason why certain cultures do forbid divorce. Because if you do not force a married couple to stay together, they generally do not. And this is why whenever you are dating a woman and she gets you to open up and be vulnerable with her, if you do, the relationship peaks then and there and steadily goes downhill after that. Being vulnerable and showing weakness to a woman is like a death sentence to a relationship and your strength and masculinity. Women will convince you that they do this in order to be a good supportive partner to you and to strengthen your bond or something else that sounds, really nice and romantic. But the truth is that women never do anything for men that does not benefit themselves or their offspring. Okay, that is just Brifo's law. And if you aren't familiar with that, check out my video on it linked below. So they do this in order to disempower the man and gain the upper hand in the relationship so that they can have a greater sense of security that he is going to be more strongly pair bonded to her. And the only way for her to do this is to reduce his strength and his virility as a mate for other women and create some sort of dependence upon her, aka codependence, which in psychology is known as a very unhealthy relationship that causes a lot of mental health concerns. But women do it so that they can have power over the man that they have chosen, that they want to be their own, or that they want to own. So while it was his male dominance that attracted her to him originally, in order to secure a future family with him, she needs to alter the power dynamic and become the dominant one in the relationship and turn him into the more submissive one. It is not done for his emotional support and benefit, but hers. Any emotional power a man offers a woman over him will be used to extract the value she wants from him. It is a power play. And this very Machiavellian maneuver may gain her a domestic servant for helping her raise her young, but it costs her attraction to him and thus their sexual partnership and in the end their love relationship, as well as his masculinity and character strengths and his mental health, since she is not actually being emotionally supportive of him but exploitative. So if a woman ever suggests you open up to her and that it is okay to be vulnerable with her, it is imperative to your mental wellness and your manhood that you decline this offer and do not fall for her manipulative ploy, because you know what it is going to cost you. The offer may feel very good at the time and be hard to resist, but you must. You need to be strong for yourself. Now, you don't have to respond defensively. You can respond politely by asking why she wants you to do such a thing for her. And listen to her either feed you one of the lines I mentioned about her wanting to be a good partner and strengthen your relationship, or some bullshit like that. Or she may actually make a mistake, like my last girlfriend did, and tell you the truth, that it makes her feel stronger in the relationship. Yeah. She admitted that to me, word for word. And so then what you need to do is tell her that even if she did have the training to be an emotional support to someone, it is inappropriate for someone to act like a therapist in a romantic relationship, and that you will have to get emotional support from someone who does have the training and is not in a romantic relationship with you. So this should be a way that you can end the conversation right there, firmly but politely and amicably, unless she is a very manipulative woman and really wants to infiltrate your psyche and try to change you, which she very well may continue to try to do by then inappropriately invading your privacy, prying at you, And you will see then how it is not about her being supportive and doing what is right for you, but it really is just a power play and something that she is doing for herself and her own benefit and empowerment over you. So let that be a warning to you men out there. It is female nature to make us weak and stupid. And in order to empower ourselves, to be able to retain our masculine strengths, we need to resist them. So do not give in to them. And in fact, in any situations in which strength and smarts are required, I recommend avoiding women at all costs. Because don't forget what that study linked below has proven, and make sure that you've checked that out. Because this is why I no longer work with women or work out at the gym. You will find that you simply perform better when you are not being subjected to the negative influence of the female gender. So that concludes this talk. Thank you for listening. Be sure to share your own thoughts and opinions by commenting below. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button, share these messages with everyone by sharing the video on social media and talking about these things as well. And lastly, check out the links in the description below for other resources for your masculine and personal development and living the life you want to as an independent man. Stay tuned for the next video coming out soon, which will be on male slavery. And make sure you subscribe so you'll be notified when that is. And until then, take care of yourselves, men, because no woman out there is going to.